Today I'm gonna show you how to come up with more interesting bass lines by practicing one-note bass lines. Bass hack coming up! Hey bass hackers, Misha here with MMEducation, showing you how to learn faster and practice smarter by using the latest findings in neuroscience, so you can become the bass player you want to be, express yourself freely on your instrument and connect with your audience on a deeper level. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. And at any point during the video, go check out the show notes in the YouTube description, bullet points for this video, links to related videos, links to the music I'm using in this video, and free goodies, all in the YouTube description. But let's get going and build some new neural pathways first. Did you ever run into the situation where you had the feeling, I've played this bass line before, and not just once. Why can't I come up with new bass lines? Well, the answer often is we focus too much on the notes. One thing that I've learned from Victor Wooten when visiting him in Nashville was that music is more than just notes. The notes are merely one element out of 10, so a tenth of music is the notes. So today we're gonna focus on the 9 other elements and how they can help us to develop a capturing, interesting bass groove. Let's go back to only playing the root note, but diving deep into each one of the 9 elements that you might have not focused on for a while. Element number 1, listening. Listen to the backing track or to the music that the rest of the band is playing. Then play something contrasting. Go along with it for a while, play around, play in the cracks, in the gaps. Then turn it around and play something right on top of the drums, or right on top of the guitar, or something together with a piano. All the options you have that open up to you when you're listening. Rhythm. One of the most important elements for us bass players is rhythm, obviously, because we're part of the rhythm section, right? For example, if you take a scale, we all do these scale runs to practice our dexterity, but they generally sound very unmusical, so a lot of teachers tell us we shouldn't play a scale just in 16th or 8 notes up and down. And now we add rhythm. Articulation can make a difference in how the band reacts to your bass line. If you play all short notes, it might sound a bit rushed. If you play everything legato, no gaps in between, it might be really relaxing, maybe a bit too much, depending on the song. So be aware of your articulation at all times. Dynamics. Often we bass players like to use compression and dial out the dynamics that we have in our hands. But the truth is, if you add a little bit of dynamics to your bass lines, to your solos even more, but let's just stay with bass lines for now. If you add a little bit of dynamic and think about which note to play louder, which note to play more quiet, you'll discover a whole new world of groove inside that element alone. Sound. Sound is very important to your bass line as well. Not every bass line sounds good with every sound. If I play a Jacko line, for example, I don't really want a reggae sound where I just hear low frequency rumble. I want those high mids to really shine and give me note definition for every one of those short 16th notes that I play. In comparison, if I play a reggae tune, I don't want that Jacko sound and have this brittle, thin thing of a sound. I want my guts to move when I stand in front of my cabinet. Always dial in the sound that's appropriate for the style of music. Or do the opposite, as long as you do it intentional. Phrasing. Now it's getting interesting. Phrasing mainly refers to the fills you might be playing, but also the bass line itself. It kind of relates back to listening. Listen to what's already there in the music. Stay with the topic. Don't play something that just doesn't fit, obviously. But the same thing applies to your bass fills. You have a bass line, so you have a core idea of what the feel of what you play should be like. Stay with that for your fills as well. Don't just shoot some licks that you practiced a couple of weeks ago that have nothing to do with this type of music. Try to develop ideas for bass fills from the bass line. So it's all nice and congruent, and the audience, as much as your bandmates, understand where you're coming from. Silence and rests. Give your bass line a couple of rests. Leave some gaps. You know that music happens in between the notes, right? So be very conscious of where you have silence in your bass line. It can be a very dramatic effect. For example, the easiest rule of thumb, which works really well with bass lines, is to keep the 2 and the 4, where the drummer plays the backbeat on the snare drum. Keep those free. That'll make a really nice tight groove and let that snare drum ring on its own. Emotion. Ask yourself, what do I want to say? Or, if you want to go a little bit deeper, what's the meaning of the song? Can I support that somehow by thinking of that message while I'm playing the bass? You bet you can. Just try it out. It sounds a bit silly, I know, but just try it out. Believe me, I've seen it so many times with my students. I just tell them, okay, now think about a really sad story and play that solo or with a ballad again. And it's day and night difference. Lastly, we need technique to actually do what we plan to do. So adjust your technique and your economy of motion to enable you to achieve all the things that we just talked about. It might mean you have to change the slapping technique. It might mean you have to change to another bass or another amp or another foot pedal, or maybe even play with the sound. Even that is technique. The sound itself is the intention, but to know how to do it and to get there, that's the technique. Before I combine all these elements, now I want to make one thing clear. You always use all these elements in every note you play. But what I want you to learn is how to use them consciously. Because, of course, any note that I play always has a length, always has a dynamic range, it always has context or no context. But are you making these decisions consciously or subconsciously? Because once you can do them consciously, your taste will automate, and all of a sudden, all the right choices become subconscious. Now that's something to look forward to, right? For example, with my bass line that I came up with, I've listened to make it fit to the backing track. And then I checked out the rhythm and I did some corrections to make it a little bit more concise. Then I looked at the articulation and I noticed maybe if I play that last note a little bit longer so it ends just with the snare head on the 4, it sounds even better. Then I went to the dynamics and I thought, well, playing the one a little bit louder than the other notes always has some good feel to it and marks the one. As Bootsy says, it's soul on the one, baby. Then we have sound. Well, I've played around a little bit with it. A lot of sound I like to get from my fingers. I've decided for pretty neutral sound for this bass line. Then we get to the phrasing part. My result from focusing on phrasing was the fill that I did of the last bar. The thing is, the guitar is playing this chromatic thing going down, and the 8th notes with a little dynamic swell worked perfectly, at least for my ears. You might think that idea sucks and come up with something way better, but be my guest. Your taste is yours, mine is mine. There's no wrong or right, there's just conscious or unconscious. So let's take all of these elements, practice them consciously one by one, and then take the results out of that and make one nice bass line where you've consciously decided on each one of these elements one by one, and now bring them all together. So today I showed you 9 ways to play a bass groove that is more than just its notes. Now it's up to you to not just take in the information, but create new neural pathways by applying the newly gained knowledge. Question of the day: can you handle the one-note groove challenge? Let us know in the comment section. Remember that some of the coolest ideas come from you and the MMEducation community. So connect with everyone in the comment section, and if there's a specific topic that interests you more than any of those others, let me know and I'll do a tutorial on that topic just for you. Alright bass hackers, thanks for checking out this video. I hope it got you one step further towards becoming the bass player you want to be. Definitely subscribe for more videos just like this one, and if you want to find out more about how to play bass fills, go check out my bass fill hacks right here. Until next time, MMEducation is helping you to learn faster and practice smarter. So keep up the good work. Love and bass.